Hello. Thank you for being here at the Insights Seminar for King James. And I want to acknowledge our sponsors, Vicki and Zeiger. I don't see them here, but we always want to acknowledge them and thank them for their generosity in supporting this program. So hi, everybody. My name is Kim Montalibano Heil, and I am the artistic producer and head of casting for the Old Globe. And to my left is the very esteemed director of King James, Justin Emeka. Let's give him a hand.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming out tonight.
So Justin asked me, I don't know, half an hour ago, what are we talking about? I said, don't worry, because I will just talk your ear off, or I'll have you talk our ears off. I know how to do that. But I've been really, really lucky in that, you know, we invite directors from all over the country to work at the Old Globe. As many of you know, you all have seen shows for years and years here. And every so often, you know, you meet a director and there's a kinship. There's a sense of this person, I knew this person in another life, or this person, I don't have to say much for us to understand or get on the same page. That is what it was like to work with Justin for me. And so we started working together, I guess, in the fall of last year. But Justin, tell us a little bit. You have a history with the Old Globe, so share what you've done with us before.
Yeah, so I first came to Old Globe in 2017. I received a directing fellowship in classical directing from the Drama League in New York. And I was here in 2017 for the whole summer, and I served as an assistant director on the production of Hamlet and the production of Richard II. And then I also created a workshop production of the Scottish play that I did that summer. And then this past summer, I was here workshopping a new play called All Day that's written by Lisa Jessie Peterson. And it's about her year that she spent teaching on Rikers Island in New York. And so it's a really rich piece that we're still working on. But I'm excited to be here. It's my first time directing on the main stage at Old Globe, so it's really exciting to be here. Come on.
Justin comes to us from Oberlin in Ohio. Is the town also called Oberlin?
Yes.
So Oberlin University.
Oberlin College.
Oberlin College.
Yeah.
Which I learned, and actually my husband is an alum, is the first.
Of Oberlin College?
Yes, we talked about
Yes,
this.
we did. That's right.
You'll meet him on
That's
Thursday.
true.
Yeah, you guys were a year apart.
That's right.
Because you were there for 1 year, and then you left, and he was there for 1 year. And then, So what does that say about Oberlin? Anyway, but I learned that it was the first college to be to integrate, and then also the first college to welcome women. Is that right?
That's right. First college to accept African Americans and women. Yes. Here.
Yeah, quite a rich history.
Yeah.
And you are what is your
I'm a
title
professor.
there?
I've been teaching at Oberlin for 17 years. I'm an associate professor of theater and Africana studies, but I'm also a alum. I went to Oberlin also as a student, and then I left Oberlin and worked and directed in Seattle, Washington for 10 years, and then got invited back to teach. And I met my wife at Oberlin, and so we both came back. Now my wife is the prosecutor of Oberlin, getting ready to run for judge of Oberlin. That's right. And I'm here directing.
So, Justin, I know that your first introduction to the Old Globe was through Shakespeare, through the directing fellowship. Tell us about that. What brought you to Shakespeare?
Good question. So, I mean, I grew up kind of, I struggled with Shakespeare. I started in theater as an actor, and I was a kid. I was very gregarious. I loved attention, and I wasn't afraid to get up on a stage. So people kind of quickly was like, if they ever needed a cute kid to be, let's call Justin. And so I did all types of little things for churches, community centers, schools. I was just that kid, and I did a program on Shakespeare at the Seattle Children's Theater. And I enjoyed it, but I didn't really quite all the way understand it fully, but I could kind of like act like I did. So I kind of had kind of a difficult relationship with Shakespeare, I'll say, until I graduated from Oberlin College. I started directing, and I was acting still some. And then one of my mentors, Avery Brooks, who's an incredible actor. He is the black captain on Star Trek Deep Space Nine, if you've seen that show. He's just an incredible human being. He was doing a production of King Lear at Yale Rep that he invited me to come and be a part of. And I played Edgar, his son, and I used art form that I use at Capoeira Angola, which is African Brazilian martial art. We used it as the movement vocabulary for the production. And it was the first time that I had ever really like seen myself in a Shakespeare, in the world of Shakespeare, you know. And Avery was really, you know, big on introducing me to the idea of like not just having black bodies in the productions, but even putting black culture into the pieces, and as a way to help even reveal the story in an exciting new way, you know. And so that like opened my mind, like kind of opened a whole new dimension for me. And at the time I was at a graduate school at University of Washington studying directing, and so I wanted to like challenge myself, and so I did a production for my thesis, a production of the Scottish play, and set it in the Civil War, right at the end of the Civil War, you know, looking at the like Mac as a northern soldier, kind of like General Sherman, who went through and ravaged the South, and Lady M as like a Southern belle who had her plantation ravaged but fell in love with this northern general, and Banquo as an African American freedman who fought alongside him but could only get so high in the army. And then the witches were newly freed African slaves who were servants at the Macbeth plantation during the day, but at night they ritualized and prophesized to African, you know, deities, and saw that, you know, Macbeth was going, you'll be king, but none of your children will be king. And Banquo, you won't be king, but all your kids will be king. And, you know, that puts rancors in the vessels of his mind, you know. And so it kind of started to open up a whole new dimension of like how to approach Shakespeare. And so, you know, I've done a couple, did a Romeo and Juliet, kind of created ways in. I did last year, I directed A Midsummer Night's Dream in Harlem that I adapted and put in at Pittsburgh Public Theater. And so, you know, I've just had a new love for Shakespeare, just because it's like contemporary mythology, and finding ways to put, you know, contemporary culture in is exciting to me.
But I want to rewind a little.
Yes.
And maybe look at that moment where you thought, this acting gig is not for me. I want to be a director. How did that happen?
Well, no, so I went to college, Oberlin College, and I thought I was going to major in theater, but I ended up majoring in Africana studies, because around that time I started getting like noticing like what I could and could not be called in to audition for. Like, so I grew up as a child actor, and you know, I would go in for commercials, and again I was cute, so they would put me in stuff. But then as I started getting older, then like what roles you can really audition for and what plays people, you know, would allow you to be in. So then I just started to become more interested in who's telling the story, because, you know, a number of times I would be told, oh no, you can't audition for that. No, there's no room for you in that play. I'd be like, what do you mean, you know? And so I just wanted to have more a say in terms of like the story and the perspective, I should say, that was kind of within the world of the play. And that's what kind of naturally led me into directing.
Do you ever miss acting?
Well, you know, sometimes I act too. So I've done, I don't know. So I'm a resident director at Pittsburgh Public Theater, so I get to, you know, do a lot of exciting stuff. And last year I also directed an August Wilson play, but I was also in it too. So I was like acting and directing in it. So I like acting. But I like directing more, you know, and so every now and then I will still do an acting role. But like I said, at this point in my life and career, directing is what lights me up.
Well, I want to now move into King James because, you know, one of the pieces of my job that I love is that I get to work with Barry Edelstein to select our season, but also talk about directors who we find exciting and who we want to bring on. And I didn't know Justin, but I remember very distinctly, Barry, after talking about programming King James, he said, oh, you know who should do this? Justin Emeka. And then there were other people in the room, and they all lit up because they all knew him. And I was like, oh, he sounds cool. Great. I went on his website and I was like, oh, I'm a little intimidated now. We have this play, which, can I get a show of hands of people who've seen the show? Just, only 2 people. Okay. All right. So we'll try not to spoil it too much. But it is a play that is about friendship, and it's about the relationship between these two men over the course of 12 years. And they're sort of the centerpiece of their friendship is LeBron James and basketball. I'll be the first to say, not a big basketball follower or fan, though I have much respect for it. So, there was a little bit of this, for me, this idea of, well, whoever, tackles this can hopefully speak to both the culture of the basketball world, but also have immense affinity for friendship, and particularly between these two men. And so I want to talk about, or find out, Justin, when you got the call from Barry and he floated this by you, what were your thoughts?
Well, one, I was just excited by the idea of coming to Old Globe and directing, but I am also pretty selective in terms of what I take, and mostly just because I what can I bring? Can I bring to something to this, And if I can't find my way into a play, then I'm not gonna act like I can, So I read the script and I got it immediately, just because, one, it's dealing with Northeast Ohio. That's where I've been for the past 18 years of my life, dealing with LeBron James and the idea of being fans, which I got also because I'm an NBA fan, and I specifically LeBron James. I followed his career, but then deeper than that, it's just it being about friendship, and I'm drawn towards stories that I always say that have a foundation of love at the bottom, that kind of runs through the play. You can have conflict, you can have betrayal, but it all has to be rooted in love. Otherwise, what's the point for me? And so, looking at the play, I could sense the love that exists between these two men who kind of struggle to express their love. I also identify with and know many men who kind of suffer from that affliction. And so I was interested in kind of exploring that. And so that's what kind of drew me into the play.
And had you worked on a Rajiv Joseph play
before?
No,
I had not. And again, he's from down the street because he's from Cleveland as well, but I haven't had the benefit. So, I love the writing, and so it's just a great opportunity.
Yeah. So as someone, once again, who's not a big basketball person, when you're working on a show where you feel like I did, there's a little bit of distance between me, you can come in with a little bit of a wall. But I tell you what, this play really does take down that wall pretty quickly, because it's about these two men and their connection. And I want to ask about that, Justin, because I think that one of the very special things about this story is that we don't actually have a lot of plays in the American canon that are just about male friendship.
That's right. That's true.
And this does it in a way through the lens of this, basketball fandom, and also a conversation about race. But what is it about this play that perhaps you said, you're not going to do something unless you can bring something to it. What was that thing that you thought, okay, I want to bring this to it, or I want to explore this?
Well, because I feel like the way it's written too, though, I see kind of those pitfalls, but you could kind of go in the wrong direction in my esteem, in a way that this play is not interesting to watch, if you don't approach it the right way, and for me, again, the right way is that the audience has to love both these characters. And on paper, for me, that I struggle at times. One of the characters, I felt like, hey, he's a bit of an asshole, and so how do you? But we love assholes in our life. I'm saying? Everyone got one in the family, and we, but but they got to be worthy of it. You know what I'm saying? There's something about them though that makes them worth it. And so I was interested in like not forgiving the fact that they're these kind of abrasive and not trying to sanitize that, but make it what makes these people worth it in our lives, and so that's what really kind of excited me. And I felt like, okay, if I find the right actors, I can really dig into that idea, because if you lean into the fact that these guys, he's just kind of he's a bit of an ass, then what's the point? I don't want to watch that. But seeing flawed people is what's always interesting. We identify with that, and flawed people who are worthy of love. And I was thinking the other day, I was like, because I tend to make my characters that, and I'm like, wow, I don't look for plays that have that. But then I'm like, well, you know what? For me as an artist, I like actually showing how people are worthy of love. Even the people who do kind of despicable things, without like excusing their, making excuses for them, but showing how at the core, again, there's always something to love. As Lorraine Hansberry said in Raising the Sun, but Big Mom, she says there's always something to love in a person. And so as a director, that's where I'm working from with my actors. And so the actors, you got to love the character. And if I sense the actor is judging the character or playing, kind of a version, let's break that down. You have to love the character, and sometimes that's hard, especially if you're playing a character that does something despicable, as a racist or sexist, or does something horrible. But the actor doesn't have the luxury of judging them. They still have to find a way in, and then the audience will judge them. Let the audience, but we can't judge them.
Let's talk about finding those actors, because we were just having this conversation. So I just want to sort of clue you all in on the casting process a little bit, because that's my expertise. Here at the Old Globe, right, and you all know, we try to get people that are beloved in some way. Sometimes you get people like Robert Sean Leonard, or you get... goodness gracious, like in Meteor Shower, who was the guy, Greg Gurman and Jenna Fisher, so these recognizable people from TV and film, and that's one way that we try to entice audiences to come see the shows, right? And then sometimes we have auditions for roles that are maybe a little harder to find, and we don't quite have that name actor, or we don't quite know, or the director's like, I really want to see more people for this. Well, this was kind of a unique situation in that it's a two-person show. And in a two-person show, we know they've got to be heavy hitters. They have to be able to carry a two-person conversation for 2 hours. And if you think about it, who in your life would you want to watch for 2 hours just talking? Right? It's hard. It's hard to find people who can carry that off, who are charming enough and also complex enough to be able to tell the story. And it's also hard for us here at the Globe to find people who can do that and aren't working somewhere else because they're that good, right? So there's a kind of tier of actor that we're looking for. An actor who probably isn't going to audition necessarily because they're established enough in their career, but may not be well known to audiences, and that's fine. And for this, we knew, well, they have to be skilled, they have to be experienced, they have to be charming as all get out and charismatic, both of them. And so one of the conversations we had was we got together with our casting director, who's based in New York, and we tossed around some names. And ultimately, we knew that these two actors were going to be what we call offer only, which is exactly how it sounds. They don't audition. You offer them the role, right? And but that's a risk. That's kind of a risk sometimes, because sometimes the director doesn't have the luxury of having worked with them, or hasn't had the luxury of even meeting them in person or over Zoom, right? But if it's a certain tier of actor, they might have a lot of work out there in the media that you can watch and you can kind of get a sense. So that's actually what we ended up doing, and I personally was quite nervous because the young man who plays Matt is a friend who I've cast in a show before, who I think is just very talented and just a lovely human being. But Justin did not know him. And then the other person actually was in our production of our Globe for All Henry V, and he played King Henry. And so we knew that he was great at Shakespeare. And but we also knew that he was a tremendous actor. But those two actors had never met. So here you are, you're putting together a show between, it's a two-hander. They have to have chemistry. And you're really kind of taking a shot at what that might look like. So anyway, I've talked too much. So do you want to share a little bit of that process?
Well, I mean,
for you?
it is. You have so little time to even figure out what you have in the room in terms of chemistry. You have to figure it out immediately, because we started, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks ago, 3.5 weeks ago. It's the process goes so quick, and you got to go to such intimate spaces, and talk about like really touching things, and you don't know what each actor's experience is with certain stuff. So what kind of obstacles they have just to access certain things in their life, so it's a real gamble, and I just feel like overjoyed, with the cast that I have. I really can't at this point imagine doing this show with any other actors. I mean, they are really amazing actors, and the performances that you're going to see they're just, they're really, really fine performances. And they quickly established a trust and relationship with each of them, But I never had met Caleb, who plays Matt. But the first day I got here, we went out to dinner and just tried to feel each other out quickly, and I could immediately kind of sense his energy, that it was compassionate, it was open, it was giving, it was caring, which kind of was like, whew, and then Joshua, who plays Shawn, I had worked with since he was in graduate school, so I kind of knew what I was getting with him. But again, I didn't know what would happen when you put them in the room together. But a lot of them, actors feed off the tone that I set, and I knew that I took responsibility. I set the tone, and the first speech that's kind of trained, and that first speech, the first 5 minutes is very critical, because actors can, everybody can sniff bullshit real quick. Yeah, and if they sniff it, they go, oh, okay, that's the bag we're going to be coming from, But if you can reach them and inspire them in a sincere way, then it paves the way for the process, And so just being able to speak from the heart and identify the pulse of the play and make them excited for this opportunity, that's how we were able to, get our work going.
And your design team too. I know you knew a few of them, or a couple of them maybe. Did you know Sarita?
Yes, I had worked with Sarita before, but we only worked together in the pandemic, so we never met each other. We did a production.
This is our costume designer.
We did a production. I was directing. It was at Juilliard. I was directing at Juilliard from Ohio, and and she was in Brooklyn designing the costumes, and so it's kind of crazy. So I didn't know, we hadn't worked with each other, and then I didn't know Lawrence Moulton III, who was a fabulous set designer, and Abigail, who does the lights, and Lindsay, who does the sound. We were all kind of new to each other, but again, we kind of dropped right in and went straight to it, and all contributed to the vision that you're going to see tonight.
They say theater is a collaborative art form, which it absolutely is. But I can't tell you how wonderful it is when that collaboration goes smoothly and sort of evolves in a really organic way. And I feel like it did. And the concept and the look of the piece, the sort of the physical production, as well as the sound and the lights, everything just came together so beautifully. I guess what I'm trying to say really, Justin, is that, for myself, coming into this process, not knowing Justin, you brought such a warmth and a love to this whole process that made it dare I say it, easy to create this wonderful piece of art. And I'm just, it's not so much a question as it is a statement, but like, where does that come from?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I mean, for me, again, it's about always remembering why we do this. And that word, for me, it's this. It got to come from the heart. It's about love, and you have to love people to work in the theater. I'm a firm believer. You got to love humanity, you got to love expression that comes out in different colors and shapes and tones and all of that, and being able to find that way, and having the faith that every character, every person wants love as opposed to conflict and turmoil, and conflict is usually in pursuit of trying to find a balance. But many of us in our own lives we might not find it. But my faith believes that every person wants to experience love and happiness, rather than something else. And so always starting the process, I always remind my team, remind my cast that it's a blessing to be doing what we're doing. Because at the heart of what we're doing is we're just playing make believe, and we're still kids who are saying, well, what happens is you go get this and I get this, and okay, we'll believe, and so that we get to play like this and inspire, make believe. For me, theater is one of the last places in our society where we'll go as a community and agree to engage our collective imagination and just play make believe, and exercise our imagination, because I also believe imagination is a muscle, and you have to exercise it, and the more you exercise it, the stronger it gets. And the opposite is true. If you don't exercise it, your imagination gets weaker and weaker, So our job as storytellers, as artists, is to help exercise the imaginations of our people so that they can envision wonderful new things, new directions to move in, to go in. And so giving us a sense of purpose. We're not just telling a story just for the sake of. There's something really essential about every story that we tell that has the possibility of opening up new dimensions in our audience.
Thank you. That was beautiful. Thank you, Justin. I think that's a beautiful segue. I'd love to open it up to all of you for any questions.
You were saying a little bit about, in looking for characters for this play, that you had some ideas in your mind what you wanted them to be able to do and so forth. Yet there was no auditioning for this particular case. So my question is, did the two people who are now playing the roles, did they read the play ahead of time? And second, did they have any inclination of what you wanted them to be able to do as a director before they accepted the role?
That's a good question. So when we make the offer, we send the script typically, right, and say, hey, we're interested in you for this role. Would you, consider it? And for me, when I'm looking, nowadays there's so much stuff online. So for actors, you can Google an actor's name, see they'll have clips up, and we also have tapes of their work. But you can kind of find out so much of people online, But again, that's different than being in a room with somebody. So for me, in seeing people online, I can assess their talent, but I can't all the way assess what their energy is like. But I'll dig, So for one of these actors, I saw that somebody said, oh yeah, this person is so great to be in a room with. He was on this one set for this TV show, and they actually wrote more part on him because they just wanted to have him on the set more, So I'm like, oh, that's a pretty good sign. That's a pretty good sign. And then also Kim saying, oh, he's just a great actor. He's just a great person, great human being. So that goes a long way. We talk to each other a lot. Have you ever worked with this person? Yeah. Well, what's it like? That happens a lot in this business. And then they read the script. Now they did not know what I wanted. So a lot they're usually attracted to the script. Sometimes though they will say, hey, well, let me talk to the director, first. But sometimes they like the script, so it speaks to them. They feel like they can, bring it, and they accept or not, And so one of my actors, Joshua, who accepted, he called me out right after and was like, "Yo, Justin, I heard, they offered me this role. Did you do this?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Okay, great." So we talked about it a little bit, but the other actor didn't. Again, we coming in just like cold.
Well, I had a conversation with
Yeah, I did. See, so.
Just for context, some of you remember San Diego Repertory Theater. I used to work there, and there was a production called Hand to God. And this young man played Tyrone. Tyrone's the puppet. Jason is the name of the character who has the puppet, and that's Caleb, who plays Matt in King James. And I cast him in that. And I, when Justin said, he was interested in offering Caleb, then I just reached out to him and said, you got to do this. I went out on a limb for you, so you got to do this. Thankfully, he was available. He's been on like a few TV shows, and he just happened to be available, so we got lucky. But that was a situation where the personal connection may have helped. So another question over there.
This is for Justin. What do you go through when you begin this whole process and have a mindset and then meet the actors and realize that they imbue in their parts something that you never anticipated? So how are you different from the beginning to the end of this whole situation? How are you different?
Thank you for that question. Again, the reason I do this is because I hope to learn from every experience that I go into. I think a director, job, we have to come in with a perspective on what the play is, all right? And for me, I just get that by reading it and read it the first time through. And that first time is important because that's like where your first impressions, what your gut tells you, and you only kind of get one first impression, So I'll read it and just kind of how that lands on me, and then I start to read it again and looking for, okay, what's at the core of this story? What is this play really about? What are the moments that are exciting to me, and what is being said in that moment? And that kind of just helped me figure out, again, do I have a way into this play? And then, but without trying to answer all the questions of the play, because every play, there's a lot of questions in a play. And then when I go in auditions and I have an idea, but I don't want to be so fixed. We were just talking about this as well, where I'm trying to cast the idea in my head. I have to be flexible enough to know that there are actors out there who are going to bring potentially to this project things I could have never imagined. And if I just try and get them to do what I see in my head, I'm going to cut off one of my greatest resources, which is the actor's imagination. So having that kind of flexibility, and also there's the play that was in the playwright's head, and so I don't feel beholden to do the play that's in the playwright's head in any play, because I can't. But I do want to understand it. I want to understand and get a sense of it. What do I think was in their head? But knowing that I can't do exactly that, but I want to be familiar. And then I know that the actor comes in with an idea of their, And so for me, I'm really fascinated, just what is the play, right? Because what is a play? For me, the play is not the script. The script is a piece of literature that inspires the play. But the play is a living, breathing thing that only happens in a moment and then it's gone. And what's kind of exciting about theater, and it can't be just my vision, can't be just the play, it can't be the script, it can't be. The art of theater is bringing all of those together and weaving a vision, weaving a tale that has room for everybody to bring their idea of the play. And my job as director is to make one unified vision out of all of that, God
bless you.
We have a question here.
But I just wanted to, is there an example of something that you added? An example of something that the actors added?
Yeah.
And then are there differences between the previews Sunday night or before versus what's going to happen in the next few days?
Yeah. Well, we're still carving and shaping. Yeah. So today we had rehearsal where we kind of changed we changed the set of scene 4. So the set in scene 4 now looks different than what you saw on Saturday, Sunday, So we're always kind of changing and growing to that end, finding new things, and all the way up until opening night. And then, technically then the play locks on opening night and the director's done and goes. But it's a living, breathing thing. So I always in my directing, make room, and I want to identify for the actors the place where I want to keep growing, keep exploring. So that you're not saying it exactly the same every night. There's room for new discovery every night. That's what's going to make it exciting for you all. And I always encourage my actors to be aware of the audience and listen and feel and respond to the audience, as opposed to just trying, we're in a play and I ignore it and I never look at the fourth wall, and it's just no, open up. And if they're responsive, feel. And I even, you might have seen, I like my actors to look at my audience, and I'll put them, let them know, but let them feel that you see them in the room, even if it's just quickly. So when we say, again, this is me, imagine we're talking about being in the arena, and we will go to the arena and we'll look around at all the faces and we'll see the face, and then we come back. And then people feel like, whoa, I was in the arena for a second. You know what I'm saying? That again, that's the magic of live theater. One thing that I've kind of done or tried to carve for myself is that you'll see is the evolution of their handshake. That the playwright doesn't give us, but trying to find ways to tell story in little things that are nonverbal. So at the beginning they don't know each other. What does that handshake look like, and how does that handshake evolve as they get to know each other better in a way that says, wow, they've what I'm saying? So that's just one little example of that. Now what the actor brings, oh my goodness, lots just in terms of the voices that, when Matt has a moment where he's playing a Hollywood producer, and he brings a voice, and I said, have fun, change the voice every night if you want, and so one night he's like Christopher Walken, what I'm saying, and it's wow, so it's just fun to see them kind of play and explore, and then so there's opportunities for creativity each night.
Red sweatshirt.
Yes.
Just a quick question. As a NBA fan, did that have any influence on your directing?
Let me see. Yeah, I mean, I guess in terms of one thing I'm lucky that the actors are NBA fans. And I was a little bit concerned, what if these actors, if they don't like sports or something, what I'm saying? But both of these are sports people, what I'm saying? And so just this idea of that passion that we get when we talk about our teams, I understood and kind of brought into rehearsal. And sometimes we would just look at clips of Michael Jordan together and be like, oh my goodness, so we kind of bring that into the piece. Mm-hmm.
I think we have time. Yeah, go ahead.
Has LeBron commented on this?
Not.
It was done in L.A.
It was done in L.A. Yeah, but I don't think he has any. I mean, any involvement. The short answer is probably not. But I don't know.
Do you know him?
We'd love for him to come check it out.
We have maybe time for one more question. You good?
Who's coming to see the show tonight?
Oh.
Yay! All right, tonight.
Yay!
All right.
Well, Thank you, Justin,
My
for
pleasure.
everything.
My
We just adore
pleasure.
you. Yeah.
My pleasure.
Thank you for coming tonight. Enjoy the show.